One of the things that we like to do when we're looking for hydrocarbons is to overplot the neutron porosity with the density porosity. Now, we're not going to go through the steps right now on how to compute those. Those are covered in documentation throughout. But we're going to start with a model where we have a neutron porosity curve here that was pulled in from the LAS file. And we have a density porosity curve here that we computed as a function of the density. Now what I want to do is I want to plot these on top of each other. So we're going to cover a couple topics here that will show us to not only how to add parameters on top of each other, but also work with the special case of plotting the density and neutron porosity and the information that gives us. Before we get started, I'm going to show that we do have our shale volume curve here in the yellow showing where we have sand, which would be potential hydrocarbons as well. Again, covered elsewhere in the documentation. So one of the first things I want to do is I want to create a chart with the neutron porosity. So I can right mouse on the node and I can hit show curve, and it shows that curve. And I could come to the density porosity, right? If I hit a right mouse, if I hit show curve, it will show it next to it. It's not really what we want. I can right mouse on that and hit hide curve. The other way that we can control the curves that are displayed is to go to view, chart layout, and you'll see these are all the available curves that we have, and all these curves are listed over here. And these are the selected curves going from left to right. So P wave, bulk density, resistivity, and you can see these are the 6 curves that we currently have shown going across here. So what we can do is we can add the density porosity. If I double click on that, it moves it over, and that would show it just like we did a second ago. But if I want to plot it on the same chart as the neutron porosity, there's a little indent button over here. Okay, and I'm going to click on that, and then it's going to show that the density porosity is now on the same chart as that neutron porosity. And I'm going to hit accept. Now what we're going to do is we're going to notice that these curves are shown here on top of each other. Now the general way that we like to look at neutron porosity and density porosity when overplotted is we reverse the scale so that we can see the overlap where we may have a wet zone or a gas zone, for instance. So how do we change these parameters? So I'm going to, you notice on this curve, for instance, I'll go on the Poisson's ratio. When I highlight over it, this curve pops up, and if I click on it, it's going to give me the menu where I set the minimum, max values, and so on and so forth. When I have one or more parameters on here, they highlight independently. So I'm going to click on the neutron porosity, and when that menu pops up, here's my neutron porosity settings. I'm going to do a couple things. One, I'm going to take the auto scale off. I'm going to run it from 0 to 0.6. I'm going to change its color to blue, and I'm going to leave it at that, and then I'm going to show the values in reverse. So when we show the values in reverse, our minimum is still 0 and our max is still 0.6. But what we're going to do is flip it. So the 0.6 is on the left and the 0 is on the right. You notice over here on the chart we're going from 0 to 0.6. Now I'm going to reverse that. So now my neutron porosity is shown in blue, and it goes from 0.6 to 0. Now the density porosity, I click on it, I'm going to turn its auto scale off, because right now it's going from 0 to 0.5. We want them to be on the same scale. So I turn the auto scale off, and I go to 0.6, and I'm going to make this red. And we'll show it in reverse as well. Now you notice there's a special display feature that we built into the system when you get to this condition of the neutron porosity and density porosity. And I'm going to zoom into this particular area right here. Okay, when they cross over, we actually fill that area in as yellow. And the point being is we don't do anything. We don't define the hydrocarbon zones. But that's a real good indication that when they cross over, when the density porosity crosses the neutron in this room, that there's probably hydrocarbon zones in here. And we've actually earlier gone through and we defined that, yep, that's a gas zone. And if I scroll to other locations, let me zoom out, probably a little more. I come up here, and this is an interesting one we see. we notice from our well, we have a lot of sand in this area. So we're right at about 8,000 feet here. We have a lot of sand in here. We notice a difference, a change in our density and our velocities and our resistivity. So there's something going on. But on this chart of the neutron and density porosity, we notice they do not cross over, but they come close. So more than likely, this is a wet zone. So this is just water. So we've defined it as that. We could plug some hydrocarbons in there when we do fluid substitution later, but that's for a different video. So that's very simple. How we cross over plot certain things like neutron porosity and density porosity. And if we want to add more parameters to any one of these charts, we can simply right mouse on the chart. If I wanted to plot my shear wave and P wave together, I could right mouse on that and I could say, and I get this menu, and I could say parameter 2 is my shear wave. And now I have shear wave and P wave, but they're on different scales because they're set to auto scale. So I'm going to take them both to, well, let's say 14,000. And I'll put a scale factor times 10 to the 3. And I'm going to show my shear wave in red. Oop, 14,000. And then I'm going to take my P wave. I'll leave it in black. And I'm going to go from 0 to 14,000. Okay, now I can see the shear wave in black and the shear wave in red and the P wave in black all throughout here. So this is just a quick little thing you can do, but the point of this video is really to focus on the cool things that you can get when you plot neutron porosity and density porosity on top of each other.